we're going to go to the French newspapers. Flo is with us. Nothing
It's
went
such a long
wrong.
time.
Nothing went wrong, Flo. It was absolutely fine. Lots of focus today on business leaders who are gearing up for a big annual meeting, kicking off today, a 2-day meeting, isn't it? It comes at quite a particular time because we're just a couple of months away, of course, now from the presidential election here.
That's right. We're exactly 200 days from
200
round
days.
one.
You're counting, aren't
We're
you?
counting, and get ready to hear a lot more about this election. It's far from over. Now, this is the annual summer school for business representatives. And if we take a look at the front page of La Croix, they say that the big bosses have entered the presidential campaign with just 200 days to go before round one. Big business owners are displaying their growing distrust in the political class. According to La Croix, there's a growing frustration within the business community that they're not being heard about the reforms that need to be put in place to make France a better place. You can see here this headline in this article. It says that business leaders are actually disillusioned with all the candidates that they see gearing up to run for this election.
Bit depressing, isn't it? You found the leader of France's main union of business representatives is particularly vocal, really, about a big need for reform here.
That's right. This is Pierre Guettaz. He gives an interview to Les Echos where he says, the problem is France has so much potential. You can see this quote here. We could create 2 million jobs in France. Can you imagine how much better off France would be if there were 2 million fewer job seekers? And he says to do so, though, major, bold reforms need to be made, essentially to make the job market more flexible and to make the tax system less complex. Now, Les Echos in their editorial say, unfortunately, economic issues are probably going to take the back seat in this election, which is clearly going to be marked by issues relating to identity and security. You can see in this editorial, it says that is a huge mistake because in the months to come, there's major uncertainty ahead. For instance, what's going to happen in the U.S. election? What's going to happen with the Brexit fallout? All that could have a major impact on the French economy, especially when it comes to unemployment. We need more debates about the economy and fewer debates about the burkini. That's what it says in its editorial today. We need to talk about things that really matter to French people, not just a bathing suit. But unfortunately, that's probably what we're going to be getting in the months to come.
Another matter for you now on the business front. This is a matter that really affects French farmers, in fact. The ongoing row between milk producers and the global dairy giant Lactalis.
The Globee, yeah, that's right. Now, this milk crisis is turning sour, according to Libération. There's an arm wrestling match happening between dairy farmers on the one hand who want higher milk prices and Lactalis, which wants to keep them low. Now, it started off as quite a localized protest, and it's gone quite national. L'Humanité, the communist paper, is also focusing on this, the fact that negotiations keep falling through. Now, Lactalis has offered to pay more per ton of milk, but not enough for farmers. Now, what's interesting is the communist paper clearly takes sides in this one. You can see their front page here saying the Lactalis empire is getting fatter by enslaving milk producers. It points out, though, that France's 13th fortune, it's a huge company, is essentially managing to get so wealthy by being stingy with farmers. So that's clearly their opinion there.
Now, Lactalis, they say they face some very strong competition elsewhere in Europe, don't they? Milk prices fallen more steeply there following the abolition of EU milk quotas last year.
That's right. A lot of companies say that, French farmers haven't done the revolution in milk farming that they probably should have done. Now, if you want to know more about Lactalis, you can read this interesting explainer in Le Parisien, which points out that there's kind of a paradox because on the one hand, Lactalis products are very well known. You can see some of them here. You have Lactel, which is a famous milk here. Also Président, which makes a bunch of cheeses, including the Camembert Président, which is quite famous. So the company's products are very well known, but the company itself is very secretive. And you can read more about that if we go back to L'Humanité as well. For instance, the CEO of the company, his name is Emmanuel Beignet. He's very mysterious. Very little is known about him, even though he's been running the company since the year 2000. He never goes, for instance, to the group's factories. And so most employees don't even actually know what he looks like. And so you can see a photo of him here on that wanted sign in L'Humanité.
Another story that's getting an awful lot of coverage in the French papers now. This is the government planning to set up a new foundation for Islam in France. It's ruffling some feathers with the person that it's chosen to lead this organisation.
That's right, and that's the socialist heavyweight Jean-Pierre Chevènement. He's really well known here in France. He was a minister back in the day. He co-founded the Socialist Party. Big deal. And so he was appointed yesterday to lead this future foundation for the Islam of France. Now, why is he raising eyebrows? Well, the main reason is because he's a staunch secularist. Laïcité, the separation of church and state, a big deal here in France. Also a very controversial thing in France. Now, recently he drew a lot of criticism in the wake of the whole burkini thing because he called for French Muslims to be more discreet. And so people are wondering, why in the world was he named to lead this new foundation, which after all is meant to appease relations between Muslims and others here in France. Although other people point out that he's not a Muslim himself. And so some critics say, it's a little paternalistic, maybe even neo-colonial to appoint him to lead this foundation.
And the state-sponsored foundation itself is also in the spotlight these days. Part of the government's response, of course, to the terror attacks that have hit France over the last few years.
That's right. Le Figaro talks about a construction site that's underway, being led by the government here. Several projects are in the works. So first of all, you have this foundation, which will be in charge of essentially cultural, social, and educational projects. The idea is to further integrate Islam into France. Now, everything that has to do with the actual cult of Islam, the faith of Islam, will be under the authorization of a separate association that will be 100% Muslim. Now, it'll be in charge of things like financing mosques and everything. So for now, it's a little bit mysterious. But what's clear is that the government is really entering uncharted waters. And you can read more about that in another piece in Le Figaro, which points out that, France is so known for its laïcité, its secularism, and by making this foundation, it's clearly exiting its neutrality with respect to a religion in general, and particularly its neutrality with respect to Islam. Where it's going is a little mysterious, but it's definitely a change from where we're coming from.
As ever, lots of tough issues for France there, digested for us by Flo in the French newspapers. Thanks very much.